Welcome to another week here on Huddle Up on Northwest Access TV. I'm your host, Paul. To my left, Bryce. To my right, Dustin. Good morning, boys. And to you watching at home or on Facebook, hello to you as well. You can comment below on our Facebook page at Northwest Access TV, and we will get to your comments, rants, raves, questions, opinions, and complaints.
Oh, raves, too.
Yes.
You know, you have the
I
table.
thought it was just rants. I thought we cut it off for rants.
No, we can do these.
We're including
You have
raves.
the
Raves are
table
fine.
set up just like first takes. I don't know if Bryce and I are supposed to yell at each other today, or if
I don't know
that's
what
how
you're
that's
talking
working.
about, Dustin. Shh.
Dustin,
Dustin.
it is raining today.
Okay.
No, you need bigger words than that.
Yeah, I
That's
need
what you're
bigger. I
gonna do.
need
Hot take, it's not raining.
hot take. Rain.
The sky is
Dude,
crying.
Time for show starters. I'll start it off. The obvious one for me. Bye Jimmy G. The trade. This is how I kind of described it when I was talking to my dad and my brother about this. It's the trade that doesn't make sense, but does make sense. And I'm really trying to wrap my brain around the whole Jimmy G goodbye thing. And there's more details that keep coming out about it. And we'll get a little more in depth into it later on in the show. But first, off the top of my head, I'm going, all right, I guess it's time. And that's just how I feel about it. So we'll go.
I mean, the Patriots are in this kind of weird place where they have a really rough decision to make, and
Well, it is and it isn't. They tried to make it work, but they're not going to pay your backup more than you're going to pay.
You're not going to franchise
your starter.
You're not going to franchise
them.
tag
So
Jimmy G.
What I had read on ESPN yesterday was basically that the Patriots had just tried to keep Jimmy Garoppolo as long as possible and convince him to stay.
Right.
And they even would offer to pay him like a starter so that they could secure him when Tom Brady retired.
Right, but the problem is
he doesn't want to just be paid like a starter. He
and
wants to be a starter.
The other question
Understandable.
mark is you don't know when Tom Brady's going to be done anyway.
Right.
So that's
Right.
the biggest thing. So
And I think the timing is a little strange because we were offered a first-rounder from Cleveland.
You weren't
You were
offered
not.
the first
for
no.
this season?
you were
You
not.
were not. So that's something that
We'll get into that in a little bit.
Okay.
Dustin, show starter. Go for
my
it.
show starter is Bob McNair, the owner of the Houston Texans, made some very, very terrible comments a couple weeks ago, last week actually, about letting the inmates run the prison. He was referring to players and had to do a bunch of damage control, and currently his football team that he owns is not happy with him to the point where his
Clearly.
star defensive end went for Halloween in a jumpsuit.
Do you think he was just mad because he blew his spot? He was already going to be an inmate for Halloween.
I don't-
And then McNair makes these comments like, "Ah, man, you blew it. That was going to be a
So,
surprise."
you
Or
know,
is it just the coincidence that he
The
happened to be wearing it?
organization says it's a coincidence, but
He says it's a coincidence.
I don't think it's a coincidence.
think so either.
That's a pretty sharp, some things fall in line.
What if
really
he said
easily.
we don't want to let the children run the school? Is it the same thing?
I think it would have been a lot better because the reason, we go back.
Or does anything he say was just going to be bad?
It's I don't know. It's so degrading to them.
At
Even
any
if they
point.
call them kids,
Right.
Right.
But the thing that made it more degrading than anything was the fact that these protests started over how the prison system and the justice system treats black
It's
people.
probably one of the
Like,
worst analogies he could have made.
Of the
absolutely.
analogies you could have made in this situation with a meeting with players, and it's inmates run the asylum, not inmates run the prison.
Prison,
Like,
right.
Even if he changed it a little bit,
I
the
think that
fallout
would have made it a little better.
It
If he
would
said
have been
inmates are in the
a little better.
asylum, that still, it would have just been like, oh, they're crazy. But they wouldn't have been like, we're
Or
criminals.
prisoners.
Right.
And it just, I applaud Bill O'Brien. You saw how good of a coach Bill O'Brien was this weekend because he could have had a team that came out flat and fell apart in Seattle, in probably the second hardest place to play in the NFL. And they came out and only lost because the secondary is bad. Like, they came out and played a great game. So the fact that
Both secondaries are very
that
bad.
coaching staff was able to keep the team focused enough to play a football game after these comments speaks to the coaching staff. But the comments were just awful, and I don't think we're done seeing the fallout yet.
Over to Bryce.
Yeah, I mean, my show starter. Well, I think just to quickly comment on here, just given what the reason players are protesting, I think that anything that the owner could have said was just a no-win situation for him. So that's all I'll say there. But my show starter is just how strange the start of the NBA season has been. It's so clear that parity is alive and well with not only, how much Cleveland is struggling. They're 3-5 right now.
Again, small sample size,
Right,
but they are third worst in the conference right now.
And their defense is just absolutely atrocious.
You have the just above them, Brooklyn Nets, New York Knicks.
Yeah.
Just throwing those couple of things out there.
And then teams that I don't think any of us anticipated playing as well as they are right now: Detroit, Orlando, Memphis.
I mean, I don't think Detroit is shocking. Detroit was almost a playoff team last year, and they could have, if they would have made one big trade deadline acquisition, they could have definitely made the playoffs. So they have a good team, but
yeah. I just some of the parts I don't think work. I don't think some of the parts worked. We didn't expect them to work as well as they are right now. That's what I was trying to say. It eventually got out, but we'll touch on this a little bit more in a segment later in the show.
Yep. Okay. All right. So big news overnight: World Series champs are your Houston Astros. Dustin,
What?
you said you wanted to expand a little bit on this before show.
I was thinking last night before I went to bed, the 3 or 4 baseball moments that made me a baseball fan, and I will always say that, I'm a Red Sox fan because of my connection to my late uncle.
But we know you have like 1,000 teams you love, so go ahead.
But the other, I've always loved the Astros because, when you watch a city, I've been watching the Texans since they've been a franchise, so I've read a lot of stories where, Astros news has popped up, and it was just great seeing them win the World Series last night. I know quite a few people who, live in the Houston area that lost everything when the hurricane came through. Mm-hmm. And the only thing that they've had the last few months was this baseball team. And, I think back to watching the Astros, the 05 run where they lost to the dominant White Sox team.
Yep.
And, I always hated the Yankees because of how they would play against the Red Sox, and the Cardinals because of their matchups with the Astros. And it was really nice seeing a team that, had some veterans like McCann, who had been great his entire career, had not got a ring. Justin Verlander, the first pitcher to win MVP since Pedro won MVP, right? Did he win MVP? Yeah. First pitcher to win MVP since Pedro finally get that ring.
Oh, I don't think so, actually. Now I think about that. No.
I
think Eckersley was the last pitcher to get MVP as a pitcher.
And it was just really a lot of fun to see a city that has gone through everything the last 3-4 months.
I think that's the big thing that I love to touch on is how sports can kind of not relax, but
gives you a distraction.
It definitely distracts you from a tragedy similar to Houston going through what they did with their hurricane. And I can touch on that just on a personal level. I mean, coming from just south of Boston, when the marathon bombings marathon bombings happened, you had still months and months of reflection until that Red Sox team won a World Series, and there was just a lot of buildup from that. The Houston Astros, I mean, they only had a month or so to kind of let that settle in.
And in Boston, I mean, the Bruins were also in the Stanley Cup.
Correct, right. And they lost to Chicago. So you had a couple teams that were. We've seen this just year in, year out. It seems like that teams are playing for an entire city, not just for the fans, but for literally the entire city.
The entire city.
Reminds me of New York, the Yankees in the 2001 World Series after September 11th. Didn't win it, but it still had that same feel. They're playing for their city.
Right. So I think there's a lot to be said for how athletes in general are able to definitely distract from the tragedies that are going on. So big kudos to the Houston Astros. However, I did want to touch upon, I was listening to Mike and Mike, and I'm listening to Eduardo Perez is on this morning. He was a bench coach for the Astros back in 2013. And he kind of nonchalantly said, back in 2013, we had a roster of $14 million, like a roster of $14 million, and we were playing the Yankees that, they had several players that were making $14 million, but we weren't interested in spending money on the players just yet. We wanted to develop the players. So is this another form of tanking that we should probably talk about as well?
Well, I was thinking about this.
Because that's what I thought of instantly, and then Mike Greenberg actually brought it up later on in the show. But I was thinking, I had written it down on a note card. Actually, I think that note card is still in my pocket.
One of the thoughts that I had last night.
The thing is that it's not like, we have these NBA teams that we say, they're tanking, or the Indianapolis Colts, what was it, the suck for luck type of thing.
Yeah.
So but the Houston Nationals kind of did it nonchalantly because they were never a on the radar team. They were always low key players that always developing.
And
but now all of a sudden,
one of their games a few years ago had a rating of 0.
Yes.
Like
Yeah,
nobody
so
watched it on local
is this
TV.
another? So basically the management said, "Hey, we're not going to put any money into the team, but don't worry, it's going to work out." And thankfully for them, it did.
draft
But
super
you
well.
look back and you go, well, the last 4 years for the fans have been terrible.
Well, the Astros were the process before the process was a thing. And nobody talked about them because they thought it was just utter incompetence. But this team embraced the tank, and I don't think.
But no one talks about that.
Nobody talks
and you
about
should
it.
be talking about that because that's not how you should go about it. Now, again,
But-
it was profitable because you won a World Series.
But is it, though? Because what they were able to do over a 3-4 year stretch is get some of the best draft picks and build a team completely from within, where the only thing
and
that
I
they
get
had
that,
to
but
do.
if they don't have Verlander on the squad, does this team win a World Series?
That Verlander.
No.
And
that's-
they didn't draft him. They didn't develop him. So even after, I won't even call it tanking, but even after not putting money into the team, you still needed to go grab a big name.
Well,
But
that's
not
the,
putting
that's
money
the
into the team helps you do that because you're not.
and that's the thing. Like,
Tying
for-
up
but it's like
right?
saying like, oh, we don't have to do it. We're just going to develop, and in the final hour, going, you know what? We need one of the best pitchers in the major leagues to make
Well,
our
I
team
think-
better.
How
and they went out and
Danny
did
Ainge
it.
of them.
It's kind of like one of those things where, you build the core and then you get the last couple of pieces. Brian McCann, Justin Verlander, you have your young core of guys that you have developed. And now as you are competitive, you say, okay, let's go spend some of the farm and get that ace that's going to carry us through the postseason. And it's how you're supposed to finish up the tank. That's what, teams like the 76ers, they did it with, who did they get in the offseason?
Reddick.
Reddick, once you have your
He's not
core.
quite
But please not compare Reddick to Verlander.
But once you have your core, you start slowly
much as I
bringing
love
in some
Reddick.
veterans to help.
I
that
just think
core
that it
win
was.
games.
I just think that when you're looking at if I'm clearly a Red Sox fan, I don't want my team to do terrible for 3 years, like purposely do terrible to maybe win a World Series. Like I'd rather you guys be successful throughout
I don't know.
those 3 or 4 years
I
and
think
still.
winning a World Series cures a lot of that.
I
I think a lot of things are worth it. To
I think
win
being one of the best.
I want to see what
World Series.
happens over the next couple of years because from what they say is, I know this is very fresh because they just won it last night. But from what everyone seems to be saying is this team's going to be good like this for years down the
Yeah,
line.
because they still have like the third best farm system in all of the majors.
Well, and all their players are extremely young as well, too.
Like they just won the World Series, and the farm is still loaded. The Astros did the rebuilding, and that's, that's. How
I think
you-
they got lucky, honestly.
I don't-
I think they got extremely lucky because this team could have been bad for 10 years down the line, and it was only bad for a few years down the line. Other parts, NFL trade deadline was probably one of the more, I'm not going to say exciting, but it was definitely one of the more different
Woohoo,
NFL
we're
trade
trading
deadlines.
back with quarterbacks. Exciting.
Kelvin Benjamin to the Bills, I thought was a huge move for the
Woohoo,
Bills.
we're trading.
I feel like
Why
the
are you
Bills-
saying woohoo? You know
not.
the Bills are trying to win an AFC
I thought the
title
Bills
for the
were
first time.
tanking.
I feel like
How are they tanking?
Well, they
They're-
were
they're-
supposed to tank at the beginning of the
Okay,
season.
you got
They
to stop
shipped
with the
out
whole. They were supposed
everybody.
to be tanking. No one said the Bills were going to tank. No one said Miami was going to tank. No one said
I
the Jets.
think-
Everyone said the
When
Jets
did
were
I
going to
say?
tank.
When did I say Miami was going to tank? I didn't say Miami was going to
I
tank.
didn't think Buffalo explicitly said that they were going to be terrible, but they traded away
Some of their
a lot of their best
players. Like
and then
in
I don't think
training
they
camp.
expected to be good, but now that they realize they could be good, they're like, oh, let's
Oh.
actually bring in some help and go in.
Oh,
on
we
being
traded
good.
a wide receiver. I guess we should probably now
This is
that
a good
we're
move
5
for
and
them.
2. Like,
I think it's a great move for them. I mean, Sammy Watkins or Kelvin Benjamin.
Yeah.
If Kelvin Benjamin, his upside should be better.
his upside should be better.
Should be
but
better.
Especially with the Pats. I mean, they're sort of a deceiving
But
6-2. I mean, they are catchable.
But if you're talking
They are
about that
Nah.
Kelvin Benjamin game against the Patriots, throw that out the window.
Yeah.
That team was completely lost on that defensive side for the Patriots. That's the only reason he had, I think, a career high
well,
for
I
a
wasn't
game.
talking
Or
about
game
Kelvin
high
Benjamin
for,
specifically, but I'm just saying.
I'm just saying, like
Buffalo as a
now,
team.
As a Patriot, I'm kind of a little sick that we have to face him a couple more times this
don't
year.
be sick.
But I think that defense is going to come together. But I'm saying with the NFL trade deadline, there were a lot of moves that were made. The biggest one was Jimmy Garoppolo, who was basically untouchable the entire draft, goes over to the
Jimmy G.
Patriots, goes over to the 49ers. Lynch and Shanahan couldn't have had a bigger smile during the press conference. They were just so excited. And in return, the Patriots get a second-round pick. And a lot of people were saying, like, okay, what else did they get? And a lot of the reports came out that Brian Hoyer, who has signed with the Patriots now as a backup quarterback for 3 years, was part of that deal originally. But there would have been some, like, I can't say the word, compensatory or whatever it is.
Compensating,
I
yeah.
can't say the word. Anyway, different picks that would have to get
The Pats
exchanged
didn't
too.
wanna pay that
and the Patriots
salary.
don't want to put that up anyway. And they're not going to pay whatever Hoyer was making anyway too.
He's what, like $7 million,
Something,
like that?
yeah. So
Yeah.
they're going to pay him his own contract. So the 49ers end up dropping him. So he was part of the deal. So when I look at it, okay, second round pick and a backup quarterback that has already been in the Patriots system before, it's not looking too bad.
Right.
And what it also said is that I think Adam Schefter was talking about it. The Patriots were only really going to get a second and a fourth round pick for Garoppolo. That's all the offers they were getting back in the day. So I'm going, okay, well, they still got that second, which is nice, and they got a backup quarterback that knows what New England's about instead of a fourth round pick. I'm not hating this idea, especially when Tom Brady is still showing no signs to the general public that he's going, that he's declining at any
You can
point.
essentially use that second round pick to try to pick a successor.
And also,
I
if
think they
we're,
will.
if we're going to talk about good backup quarterbacks, Brian Hoyer was just in the playoffs with the Texans 2 years ago. Very capable backup quarterback to have behind Tom Brady. Can lead a team to a playoff berth. So, it's not
Well,
like...
he's never been under Josh McDaniel's system. He still has been under Bill Belichick.
Yeah, and he's still a very, one of the better backup
And Brady,
quarterbacks
for that
in
matter.
the league, I
So-
would say. But I think the pick makes a lot of sense for the 49ers. I think...
And what did you think about Shanahan's comments that Jimmy might not even play this year?
I am okay with it.
I don't believe him.
I don't
believe
it
it at all.
So
I think, how do you go into next year with a quarterback that you went and bought, or you went and got, you traded a draft pick away for? You're going to give him a long-term
who
extension.
wants to play.
Long-term extension. One, he wants to play. You're going to give him a long-term extension. You're not going to play him this year, and you're going to go into next season with a big question mark. You got to know at least what he can do.
I think
and you're not just going to see that all in practice.
I think he'll play this year, but Shanahan has a
I don't think it's going to be
reputation-
against. Everyone keeps saying he's going to play. He won't play against the Cardinals this week. He won't play against the Giants next week. They have a bye, and then they play Seattle. Let me tell you, his first game, if it's against Seattle, I'd be shocked.
I just think
The Giants would be the team to start.
Yeah, the Giants would be the team to start him against. I think Kyle Shanahan has worked some magic with some quarterbacks too. You look at the when he was the offensive coordinator with the Texans with Schaub. You look at the Matt Ryan year last year. Like, if I'm a quarterback and I am a backup moving into a starting role, Kyle Shanahan is on my short list of offensive minds that I want to play in the offense of. Because, you look at the 49ers offense this year, it still looks pretty decent. There's no execution because the players are terrible. But the schemes that Kyle Shanahan is drawing up, the plays that they are running, you get some skilled players that actually have skill. The 49ers have a good offense.
The best part for them right now is that they don't have to go spend a draft pick on a quarterback next year
That's
and
big,
develop
too.
them. So you have Jimmy Garoppolo, who is game ready. I think he's game ready. I would call him that.
Starting caliber.
Right, and he's going to go in there as a starter for next year. You can spend that draft pick, which is likely going to be the first pick of the draft, or the second pick of the draft, in probably an offensive lineman to help protect Jimmy Garoppolo, because that's what they're lacking right now for the 49ers. But you can use your other draft picks to find some young talent. So there's a lot of upside for the 49ers, I think more so than the Patriots. But as of right now, I'm not poo-pooing the move from the Patriots, because at least you got something for him. And you have a backup that's familiar with everything. So
it makes sense, but I think Patriots fans, it's sort of uncharted territory, because I don't think fans are usually this connected to their backup quarterbacks.
Absolutely.
And
that's
because
what
of
I said.
Deflategate, we loved Brissett, we loved Garoppolo.
But what
so
did I
it's just
say
like,
for weeks on this show? These two guys, Brissett and Garoppolo, will not be Tom Brady's successor. Sure enough, I'm finally right. I'm finally right after months of saying
and I think too, Garoppolo seeing Brissett go and start somewhere before him,
it only helps.
Makes him a little more antsy to get out of there and go
I would
start
not
somewhere.
be shocked if, because
I'm rooting for both of them.
Brissett's a free agent after this year, right?
I couldn't see him coming back. If they were to give Hoyer a 3-year deal, because that's what they gave him, the Pats gave him a 3-year deal,
it would be,
I don't see Brissett coming back, because from what all the things, and including Belichick himself saying, he was looking forward to coaching over Garoppolo, which only leads me to believe that he also wants to continue coaching for like the next 7 to 8 years. 7, 8, 9, 10 years.
I would not be shocked to see if Brissett comes back to the Patriots. It wouldn't be the most shocking thing for me. He's proven that he can earn a roster spot in this league. He won't be with the Colts next year, I don't think. There's no way he's with the Colts next year.
He could be, depending on what happens with Andrew Luck. And also, there's plenty of
Andrew Luck is dead.
And there's plenty of other teams that need a backup. They need a quarterback. There are
then
other
he'll win
Super Bowl
7
because of their defense.
Now, if you keep going down the line, Jay Ajayi Miami. Now, if you want to talk about tanking, we can talk about it now because that's just selling the farm.
I don't think so.
Because the coach came out and said that I wanted to make an example out of
He's
someone.
not in our division
so you
anymore.
took arguably your best player and shipped him to a team that is 7-1 on the year.
So from what
This is like LeGarrette Blount all over again with the Steelers. Remember how he was complaining, he didn't want to play, he wasn't getting touches, so what they did, they shipped him to the Patriots, he wins a Super Bowl.
They shipped him to the team with LeGarrette Blount.
He is LeGarrette Blount.
They shipped him to Philly.
No.
That's where LeGarrette Blount is.
No, I'm saying when the Steelers.
No, I know what you're saying. I'm just saying.
I know.
They shipped
I
him to the
think
team
there
with
were
LeGarrette
some concerns in the Dolphins organization. Reports have come out about Ajayi's knees and how much longer he can hold up. And if you're really concerned about, running backs are kind of a dime a dozen nowadays. You can find good running backs all over the place.
I don't agree with that.
I mean, you can find good.
Patriots have 4 of them.
Like
They're stockpiling them like that, like the guy that you just don't really like in a draft.
I mean, the Texans have
There's
3
a couple
solid running backs right now. Like, there are a bunch of teams I can list off that have good running. The Raiders have 2 or 3 good running backs on their roster. I think the value of the running back is either you have a top 5, top 10 back and you hold on to them for their careers. But right after that drop-off, it's kind of interchangeable parts. And I think if a guy like Ajayi, who you already have concerns about his knees with, is also being a locker room problem, and you can ship him off and get some picks, you ship him off and get some picks because you can definitely find a good, a third down running back, a good running back that you can get in the second and the third round that has the speed, that is more healthy. And I don't know what the Dolphins are doing because
I don't think the Dolphins know what they're doing.
but I think after the Ravens game, anybody who was calling for Matt Moore to be the starter over Jay Cutler has been silenced because Matt Moore looked awful. Like Category 5 hurricane awful.
Really?
And he
was
way too
That was a
soon.
rough joke.
he was
Easy there, McNair.
but no, I don't know what the Dolphins are doing because I have no idea what this team's doing because they have the defense still to make some type of run.
So you're trying to say they're doing some strange things?
They're doing.
There
some
seems to be a
strange
lot of
things.
strange things going on
Nice
in the
segue.
NFL.
Nice.
There are teams
I
that.
passed on that one.
No problem. So we're going to get into Bryce's Stranger Things segment. He had brought to me the attention that we should do a Stranger Things. It's a very popular show right now.
Never
Clearly,
seen
I've watched every episode, according
So
to
good.
Bryce. I've never seen the show, and I had him going for probably half a day. Ish that I've never seen,
it
and
was like 45
I didn't
minutes.
even know what it was. Well, to me, it felt like a half a day. It felt so good that I didn't even know what he was talking about. So we want to talk about the strange things that are going on in the NFL and
In honor of
NBA.
the second
and we
season
kind of
coming
already
out
and we kind of
last
already
week,
talked about the NFL, how things are a little weird when it comes to like the trades and stuff like that. So we'll jump into the NBA and go with that. So Bryce, take it away.
Yeah, so I mean, I think just talking about some of the stranger things happening here, and I think right now in the NBA, the strangest thing happening is really the teams who are playing well and the teams who aren't playing well, because it seems like it's just kind of flipped on its head in this very early sample size, and I don't think it's going to stay this way. But, I mean, who would have seen right now Orlando tied for first in the East with Boston at 6-2? Who would have seen Indiana and
You did.
Detroit?
You definitely didn't. I know that much because you were
Orlando?
like, "This team's going to be terrible. How am I supposed to
Awful.
watch
Being
them?"
a Magic fan is the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
They're not
1
going
week
to.
later, 9 in my power rankings.
9.
They're
No, I
number
think they were
9
like-
in the NBA's power rankings
Okay,
right now.
What a ride and
they
dive
are.
for Team
Now
Bryce.
they are. You were way
I was
too
just
early.
ahead of the curve.
You
I was
were
1
way
week early.
too early.
I was
Okay.
1 week
Way
early.
too early.
Okay.
That's what in the NBA. That's 2 or 3
Saying.
games. That's
just
way too
saying.
early.
I saw it.
You didn't see anything.
No, I mean
first.
Orlando right now, like they're the type of team who's kind of living and dying by the 3-pointer right now because our center Nikola Vucevic has started shooting threes. Aaron Gordon is shooting threes at 59% right now, which is unbelievable. But they're not going to be able to keep up that pace. Like 59% is not a doable pace for the season. So I think once their threes stop falling, they have a hard time getting offense elsewhere. So they're going to start
Really?
falling off.
Hot
Although
take right
Jonathan
there.
Simmons
Once you can't
Jonathan
make the
Simmons
three-pointer, you won't score points.
is-
Hot take.
there are other ways to score points, Dustin.
Yeah, but-
Free throws and 2-pointers and layups and dunks. I am a very
Jonathan
knowledgeable
Simmons is like
of NBA shots. No, what about on the defensive side for Boston? This is a team that couldn't rebound to save their life, and now they're leading. I know they're the
Aaron Baines.
I think statistically, right now, I know it's like kind of like what we were saying last year, but like statistically, they are the best defense in the league right now. They are stopping opponents at 93.8 points per game.
Yeah,
they're scoring, I think, 10
and I don't
more
think
than
anybody expects them to do that with Avery Bradley and Jay Crowder both gone. Now the Aaron Baines pickup at center.
They have the second best differential, too, for scoring.
Has been awesome for them. That was a really underrated pickup for them. But I don't think people expected an offense led by Kyrie Irving and Al Horford to be this good defensively, right? But I think we're seeing Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, just playing so well.
They drafted well.
They drafted really well. They're set up for the present and the future.
Thanks, Nets.
And, thank you, Brooklyn. So Boston, after dropping the first two games, which I think was a little understandable because they're just after Hayward went down.
Hayward goes down.
They've now won 6 in a row.
Right. So they're at 6-2,
Right.
the top of the East, tied with Orlando.
Right.
Again, a place
and
that
I don't think anybody expected them to really.
But
Now that Hayward is out,
but this
he has
isn't
Cleveland to run for their
like
money.
you say, like for Orlando, like, oh, this guy's shooting like a ridiculous percentage for threes. It's not going to last. Can you see it lasting
the
for
third-
Boston? Because right now
Yes.
they're rebounding very well.
Yes.
They seem to be great as a cohesive team right now.
But I do have to
and
say-
they're playing other teams that they shouldn't really, that they should be kind of neck and neck with, and they're not. Now I get that with San Antonio, they sat 2 or 3 starters as well, but they are still
and they're still without Kawhi Leonard.
right. But they're still winning. They're still winning games against teams that they should.
Yeah,
they absolutely
well-
should be beating.
Well, San Antonio, they lost all 4 of their games, or all 3 of their games this week. Now, Boston, losing to Boston in Boston is understandable. But they also lost in Orlando by almost 30, and they lost in Indiana, which I think, even though Orlando and Indiana right now is 3rd place in the East, even though they're playing better than people expected, you still expect a team like San Antonio, even without some starters, to beat Orlando and Indiana.
Remember, all takes on the NBA are not to Dustin's standards yet, because most teams have only played 8 games so far.
Right.
So we still have
we're just
another
talking about
week before we can start throwing out.
How
but we're saying
strange
how
it is.
strange the start is. That Detroit right now is 5-3. They're tied with Indiana. I think the way Charlotte's interesting because I think they are a good team, and most people say Kemba Walker is one of the top players in the league.
Adding
Dwight Howard is great, but the way they ended last season
I think
was not good.
Charlotte,
especially without Nicholas Batum.
No,
right
what
now.
happened with Charlotte last year was that the ambulance came and just ran a bunch of people over, and half our 2 best players were on IR at
Really
the
bad
end of the year last
analogies
year.
right now.
Oh boy,
That one.
Manhattan, Lower Manhattan.
Oh.
Anyway, moving on.
I haven't been paying attention
we should probably
to the
start
news
doing this on
week.
tape delay.
Yep.
Yeah, but Toronto and Washington, I think we expected to be close to the top of the East. Right now, they're tied for 6th. Basically, they're both at 4-3.
Right.
Milwaukee, after a red hot start,
But then again, you have to take into account that the top 8 teams are separated by 2 games.
right.
So, again, this is
but
the smallest of
I think
sample size they
Cleveland
have.
is surprising. Now, it's not surprising that Cleveland doesn't take defense seriously for.
It's not surprising
Early in
Cleveland
the
doesn't
season.
take anything seriously
Right.
until like January.
I think what is surprising is their 3-5 start, losing to teams like Orlando
They're on a
and
4-game
Brooklyn
losing streak
and
right
New
now,
York.
too.
They're already having player-only meetings with 8 games into the season.
So what you're saying is
Is
they need
LeBron
their
washed
defense-
up?
You're getting
LeBron done?
No, I got another one.
I think
for you.
LeBron
I think their
should retire.
roster,
No, I got another.
their
Does-
roster construction.
Does LeBron end the season with Cleveland this year?
He'll end the season with them. They might not be there.
Whoa, that's a spicy take, but
That
I
is
would love to
spicy.
see it. I would love
It's
to
a
see
spicy
it.
one.
It's already out there that he's not going to be here after this year. So those are the rumors. Are why if you're Cleveland, you get on your knees, you beg a little bit to LeBron, say, can we please trade you for something? Let us get something in return. We know you're leaving. We know it's going to happen. Let us get something in return for it. Don't just leave Cleveland all, oh no, we can't survive without LeBron. do something for us. Just give us this little thing. Why couldn't it happen?
LeBron James.
You don't have an answer.
LeBron James for LeVar Bell.
We know.
I can't
No,
guess anything
he's going to
for
go to
Cleveland right
LeVar, to Lonzo Ball. He's not going to be traded for him.
LeBron James for Lonzo Ball straight up. Who says no? Who says no?
LeVar.
But I think, so to shift over to the Western Conference, the Eastern Conference, I think, is more surprising than the West right now. But with Chris Paul leaving the Clippers, I don't think people expected the Clippers to still be this good. I think we expect them to be good because they still have Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan. But right now, they're on top of the West at 5-2. Again, small sample sizes. Memphis, I think people expect to be one of the worst teams in the league this year. And right now, they're number 4.
But they're on a 2-game losing.
Orlando beat them last night.
Memphis has
started off 5-1. Started 5-1.
Now they're 5-3.
Back to 5-3.
I think we expected Golden State to start better than 5-3, but they're catching on now. No one was really worried about them.
I want to go back to Memphis for a second.
Again, though, same thing with the Spurs. You get the top 4 teams.
Right.
Sorry, top 8 teams, all separated by 1 game.
Yeah.
So
there is just
small sample sizes.
Again,
there's just some voodoo going on in Memphis where this team, I don't know how many times they missed the playoffs in the last 10 years because they just play.
They've made 7 straight playoffs.
They play gritty basketball, and it's like you'd be like, oh yeah. You'd be like, the Grizzlies are gonna suck this year, and then it's like they're the 6th seed out of nowhere, and I don't understand how they can keep getting away with this. They play the worst, most boring basketball you've ever seen, and it's like, oh, they're in the 8th seed, they're in the playoffs again.
Yeah.
Who's on that team? I can't even name anybody on that team anymore.
Marc Gasol and Mike Conley.
Gasol's the only one I knew.
Marc Gasol and Mike Conley.
Yeah.
Zach Randolph is the one they shipped off to Sacramento.
And Sacramento 1-7.
Yeah, people expect Sacramento to be better than they are.
Great start for the Kings.
Pretty
I
bad.
turned the game on last night against Boston
Memphis,
and went, oh, we're up by 30. Okay, let's
All
go back to the
right.
World Series. Oh, we're winning by 5. I don't know what to do anymore.
But Memphis, when your third best
spend time
player
with my
is
kids?
Tyreek Evans off the bench, when your third best player is Tyreek Evans off the bench, I don't think you expect them to be this good. Although,
But grit, Bryce, grit.
Tyreek Evans is on my fantasy team, so I appreciate what they're giving him. Okay. I mean, New Orleans is strange.
I think we should quickly get into your power rankings before we get it well ahead of ourselves. I get there's a lot of. Overall, there's the teams that are you expected to do well are average or
I'd like
worse.
to just come out ahead of this and say that they're wrong before you even admits them. Just wrong.
They're
Your
wrong.
power rankings are wrong.
Go ahead, let's just
Whatever.
ramble them
I'm
off. 'Cause we gotta
vindicated
keep
this
going.
week. Again, early in the season, there's going to be a lot of movement with small sample size. But I think Boston is playing the best.
You have them
in
at
the
number
NBA
1?
right now. Yeah.
That's a hell of a jump, Bryce.
It's
How big was that jump? 10 spots?
10
They
spots.
were out of your top 10 last week. How are they number 1 this
They
week?
started 2-2.
How come you didn't see that coming? You saw Orlando in the top 10, but you didn't see Boston jumping 10 spots?
Unless
Come on.
Orlando somehow makes it as like the 3rd or 4th seed.
Orlando's not in the top 10. Orlando's 11.
But you're not living.
Oh, but they'll be
to put
number
them
1
down.
next week,
Like,
though. Don't worry, 'cause that's
they
what
win
happens
2
with
games
Boston.
and they'll be like, oh, they're 8-2. They're the best team since the 73-9 Warriors.
Number 2. Number 2.
Number 2.
3.
Golden State,
Okay.
Yep.
number 2.
Okay.
Number 3, Houston.
Okay.
Okay.
Number 4, Minnesota. They beat Oklahoma City this week.
Oh. Okay.
They beat Miami.
Oh yeah, Miami's
think-
great.
I think they'll end up being a.
Miami below 500, solid
End up being a
quality
playoff
win
team.
right there.
They didn't lose at all.
They played 2 games.
They played 3.
Oh, who's the 3rd team they beat?
New Orleans.
New Orleans is
Who's
bad.
gone? San Antonio.
San Antonio, number 5. They're dropping. They didn't win any games this week. Detroit, popping up there at number 6.
What?
They beat the Clippers and the Warriors this week.
What? So you mean you have the Pistons above the Hornets, even though the Hornets are on a 3-game winning streak right now?
I think he's labeling, he's addressing who they've beat.
They both have the
that's
same
what he-
records
that's
right
how he
now.
does it.
But those beating the Clippers and Golden State this week, both in LA and in Golden State,
All right.
those are impressive wins.
But the Hornets beat the Magic, the Grizzlies, and the Bucks. The 2 of your top teams in one of the
power
top teams in
rankings.
the East in the power rankings.
Found a flaw.
And yet you have the Pistons over them.
You still have Boston number 1.
But
We should
Orlando,
probably
Memphis,
address
and
this.
Milwaukee aren't in my top 10 this week.
Oh, okay.
Going on. Get to your
Number
top 10.
7, Toronto.
Yep.
Number 8, Washington, even though they kind of had a rough week. Number 9, the Clippers. Number 10, Charlotte.
One thing
Thank you.
One
Thank
thing
you
I
very
would
much.
like.
Thank you very
One thing I
much.
would like to address is that you
Yeah.
have a decent amount of Eastern teams and Western teams.
Is the Eastern
within your
Conference
top
better than
10?
the Western Conference?
Is there a
Is that
shift?
the hot
Is there a
take?
shift
think-
upon us?
I think Western Conference, well, I think there are multiple things at play here. Western Conference is tougher, right? And they play each other more often. So I think that's going to contribute to records that might not actually indicate necessarily how good teams are. And I think the East has ended up, at the first 2 weeks of the season, better than people expected,
Clearly.
right? I mean, that's where most of our stranger things are coming
How
from.
often do we joke? Or do we joke over the offseason? Okay, it's the Golden State Warriors
And the Cleveland Cavaliers.
whoever wins in the East,
Right.
Because it was such a crapshoot. But then you see, okay, there's a lot more talent that's popping up, and same thing in the
But
West
here's the
too.
thing about the Western Conference is that the Western
The
Conference
middle
is
of the
going to
NBA
eat
has sort of
itself.
started getting better.
The Western Conference is going to eat itself alive too,
Exactly.
because there's
Exactly.
so much talent over there that
Yep.
you get to the playoffs, you're going to have like teams like the Rockets that are going to be tired at this point because they're going to have to play so competitively against the rest of the conference because the conference is so good. There's only maybe like 3 bad teams in the Western Conference, I think, and that is the Kings, the Mavericks, the Pelicans, or the Suns too. Four bad teams, but the Pelicans are supposed to be better than what they are.
Well, yes and no. I mean, it's just the problem with the Pelicans. They have Anthony Davis and Boogie Cousins, who are 2 of the absolute best big men in the league.
They have nobody.
But it just drops off. I mean, they have Drew Holiday at point guard. Sometimes he plays well.
They literally don't have a point guard. Like,
But,
I don't care that
like,
Rajon
their
Rondo is a
backups
point guard.
are
Like,
Jameer Nelson, who's playing right now, and Rajon Rondo. And it's just it just drops off from their
would you think
top 2
trading for
players.
Eric Bledsoe would be a good idea for the Pelicans?
I mean, it would be decent. The question is, who do the Pelicans have that Phoenix would at all be interested in?
Picks? Do they have any picks left? I don't know what they got.
I'm not sure off the top of my head.
All right, moving on. We probably should move on. We're going to hometown advantage. We talk about power rankings. Talk about Stranger Things. You bring it back to the local level. Bryce, you want to talk about UVM athletics? How well they're doing?
Yeah, UVM's doing well, kind of in general right now. The men's soccer are playing for in their program's first ever. No, this is women's soccer. Playing for the program's first ever conference title.
Okay.
This weekend. Men's soccer last night clinched the regular season championship against UNH, and UVM men's basketball won their first 2 exhibition games.
Oh boy.
This past
yay.
weekend against BU and Concordia.
But are they in your top 10 for the power rankings?
Oh, they're always number 1 in my heart. So yeah, UVM just program.
Yeah.
Student.
And we'll get
well
more
right
into
now.
local basketball as it comes in. We're coming to a close on fall sports here in Franklin County. Unfortunately, MVU losing to Mill River. BFA football still in the mix. MVU field hockey ended up losing last night to Linden in the semifinals. And I'm not sure on the Richford score. Richford girls soccer was still in the mix as of last night. So we'll have to look in that and see what's going on. Dustin, do you have a hometown advantage for today?
Only hometown advantage thing I have is that Milton made the finals against Rice, so that'll be on Saturday. Girls soccer. Besides that, I was hoping to have a little more to talk about, but things did not fall the way I were hoping they would fall.
That's fine. And for me, I'll take up some of that time along with JT, who's not with us today. MVU, I sat down again through phone interview, got to talk with Eric Bushy from the MVU football team for the last time this season and to find out what's next for the MVU football team. So we'll listen to that now. Home field advantage here on Huddle Up. Again, what's become a weekly tradition. I'm here with head coach for the MVU football team, Eric Bushy. Coach, shutout in the playoffs. Unfortunately, not exactly the way you want to end your season. Coming off your first win, can you just tell me a little bit about Saturday?
Yeah, Mill River had an excellent defensive game plan. Basically, they stacked the edge, and they shut down any of our outside run game, and that's been our explosive plays all season. And they came prepared. That's for sure.
How are the kids' spirits on the bus on the ride home?
It's tough, especially for the seniors. That was the last game that they get to play. Only Hunter Tardy made it to the North-South game, so he's got 1 game left. But even that, it's not the same as wearing that Thunderbird uniform. So the kids were definitely down in the dumps.
Speaking of Hunter Tardy, how many kids do you have coming back for next year? How many seniors are you losing, I should say?
We're finished the year at 23. So we have 15 returning players for next season.
So what's next for MVU football? How does the recruiting process go when you're talking to the kids in school and things like that?
The main thing is really having the kids speak to the kids. There's only so much as an adult that I have influence over with the kids. And hopefully what just happens is the kids go, say they had a great time, and that they want to build on the tradition that we started. We got that first win, and now we're looking for a lot more.
Now, you said Hunter Tardy is going to be, is it the North-South game?
Correct.
Okay, so it seemed, if you're looking at film, you're looking at tape, just from the years past, he was clearly very heavily involved in offense and defense. How do you replace a player like him?
It takes multiple players to really replace Hunter Tardy. I mean, his offensive production, he ended the season, he had 16 total touchdowns, and he ran for 1,285 yards. That's a lot of offense to try to replace, and it's going to be running back by committee next year.
And I guess one person that comes to mind for me is Ethan Kelleher, that had he had what was almost like an 80-yard touchdown in your last game of the season.
He did. There against Fairfax, he broke off a 79-yard touchdown, and he had a 75-yard touchdown against Spalding as well, where he ran for over 140 yards that game. I really think that he's next up. He's one heck of a football player, both offensively and defensively, and he showed it. He averaged 12 yards a carry on the limited touches that he did have, and I think he's going to be a big part of the offense next year.
And he's coming back as a sophomore or junior?
He's coming back as a junior, and that's the crazy thing that he. I think he should be all Division III this year as a sophomore on the defensive side of things. He played very well. He improved so much from his freshman year. And he's one of those kids who takes no time off. I'm sure he's in the weight room already. He had his bench press up to 315, and I know he's trying to get that back right now.
So what's next for MVU football? Is it big fundraising plans? Is it the push for town meeting day for the community funding? What's next?
We got to go out, and we got to see this year's a campaign year, really. So hopefully we get some people. Hopefully we go door to door and really get faces and names. It's easy to say no to something when you don't have a personal connection. So we're going to try to build that personal connection with the community, and hopefully that helps us get a yes in the long run.
Where do you see this program in 3 or 4 years, regardless of funding or not? Is it something? Because I know that you were also part of an article about basically the dying sport in Vermont is something like football. So where do you see this program? Do you see it progressing? Do you see it getting bigger? Where do you see it?
Well, that's the hope. Hopefully, you said 3 to 4 years on the road. We're hoping 5, 6 years on the road that we're a true Division II football program. We have the numbers in the school. The soccer team had about 45 kids on it, so if we can, some people ain't going to be happy about this, but if we can take some from there and really just get some athletes out on the football field, I think, 3 to 4 years, we have a really good chance to compete for the Division III title.
I know that other coaches throughout the county, they're also the baseball coach or the basketball coach, or they do cross country. I know that you're kind of strictly football here. So what does a high school football coach do during the off season between the months of now and then for spring practices?
Well, I actually do coach middle school baseball as well. I coached 8th grade baseball last year. We went 8-0, so that was a lot of fun. But I'm breaking down film right now, getting ready for next year. Working on the playbook, trying to sharpen things up, looking at things that didn't work for us, looking at things that did work for us. So I'll be watching film probably until January, and then in January I'm going to start the weightlifting program, and then still probably break down some more film and just try to stay busy as possible.
All right, it's head coach Eric Bushy for the MVU football team. Coach, appreciate you joining us on Home Field Advantage on Huddle Up. So that was, again, head coach Eric Bushy for the MVU football team. So there's a nice segue from football, the end of their season, to our football picks for the week. That's what I'm doing. That's my little wipe there to the NFL. Our NFL picks. After last week, Actually, I don't have last week's picks with me, but I have our standings. Myself at 73 and 46, John at 62 and 57, creeping just behind Dustin at 68 and 51, and Bryce with a 21 and 7 record, looking good so far for his 2 weeks of NFL
right.
picks.
Oh,
So,
no,
but we know
okay.
that you're now you're no longer a closeted NFL fan. That you actually watch very intensely and have
He
multiple
watches
fantasy
a ton
teams.
of football.
And watches it all day, all day.
I have a 750.
Win percentage.
Percentage.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
Congratulations,
Let's
Bryce.
keep that up.
Let's keep that. Yeah, if you keep, piggybacking people's
That's
picks.
a real stranger
That's
thing.
that's the best thing you're gonna. I mean, it's a good thing for you.
It's called strategery, Paul.
Strategery.
I'm betting $1.
Winning $1. We started off with Thursday Night Football.
Color Rush.
Color Rush. Buffalo Bills versus the Jets. This is the game that everyone hated. Was it last year? Because
Because
We were colorblind,
this
right?
was
It
the
was all
red
red and green.
all red versus all green, and there were people that were watching that are colorblind that said, "I don't know who's who."
the all colorblind game. I'm taking the Bills tonight. I believe no one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills.
So, yeah, everyone says that.
I'm gonna
That's
go.
not a hot take.
I think they're gonna go 6-2.
They are, aren't they already 6?
They're 5
Oh,
and
they're
2.
5-2. Yeah, I'm going with the Buffalo as well. I know that Benjamin's not playing tonight, but the team is clearly playing better than the Jets are.
Yes.
Even though the Jets are still, I think they're on a 3-game losing streak now, so they're starting to become the team that we know they are. But they're not losing by a lot. They're just so.
I'm taking Buffalo too. I think.
There you go with a
actually
piggyback pick. Nice.
I think the AFC East has actually been better than people expected this year.
I think
all
between
around.
the Bills and the Patriots, yes, because there's still a lot of question marks on the Patriots defense, and there isn't any question mark on the Bills defense.
But I mean, the Jets are losing, but I think they've been tougher to play than people
Clearly.
expected.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm glad that the Patriots got at least one of those games out of the way,
Yeah.
and Buffalo, it'll be on them. But the fact that we still have the Patriots for their second half of their schedule, we're already into week 8. They're on a bye this week. Sorry, week 9, they're on a bye this week, so we have, 7 weeks left. They still have to play the Bills twice, Miami twice, and the Jets one more time. So that's your second half of the year.
Yeah.
And it's a good thing that at
Luckily, we're
least-
catching the Jets in New England.
and the Miami is just selling all their players away. So, I mean, there's still that. Atlanta at Carolina.
Ooh.
It's one of those where I feel like we still haven't seen the best of Carolina, and we have no idea what's going on
Somebody
with
got a
Atlanta.
coin to flip.
For real.
I'll go Panthers. I think the Falcons are going to win this game. Now that I picked the Panthers, the
you-
Falcons are going to win. But I'm picking the Panthers. If I pick the Falcons, the Panthers are going to win.
I hate this game.
I do too.
Just for the toughness of the pick. I'm going to go with Atlanta.
Okay.
I'll say Atlanta.
I'm going to go with Carolina as well. It's one of those I'm going to take
don't
the
love
home
it.
team type of
Yeah.
things. So that's
Yeah.
the direction I'm going to go into. Indy at Houston. Is there even a
this,
question mark?
This one's pretty easy.
What did we have to at least bring it up? What did Houston do to see that all great, amazing Seattle defense last week? That was one of the best games of the year, if not
Watson
already
was
the best
it.
game. of the
Deshaun
year.
Watson just has some black
legit.
magic in the sense of
Sitting on my bench for fantasy.
You think of how Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers can bring people back. I think Deshaun Watson is that next generation of don't let him have the ball last, because I think in that Seahawks game, if the Texans get the ball back with a minute and a timeout, they get in the field goal range and they tie it up and they go to overtime. I can't explain it. Watson's good. Our defense is horrendous. We have no quarterbacks, but hey.
This is the Patriots team I'm used to seeing, where the defense is like really bad, but the Patriots just put
This
up a
team
million
reminds me
points.
so much of the Packers in the sense of they have a couple of stars on defense, but their defense overall isn't really good. But they have a quarterback that's so good that they can win shootouts.
When do we say he's the real deal yet? Is he the real deal, or
I
is
think
it
he's
still
the
like
real
is it
deal.
still you're in a rookie season? Maybe we're just living the hype.
I
Because
think
he went into Seattle, and that was supposed to be the biggest
I think
question
he's
mark.
going to come down to but. These
And it
two
wasn't
best-
really a question mark.
His
It
two
was-
best games at New England, at Seattle, two of the hardest places to play. Almost won both. If the defense can hold up, the Texans win those two games. Like the defense has to hold up on one drive. You're looking at a 5-3 Texans team right now. But because the defense has been horrendous this year, I think Watson's the real deal. I think the offense is a lot of fun to watch. Fuller has 70% of his catches are touchdowns. or
6
something
touchdowns in the last, or
Like,
5 touchdowns in
like
the last 3 games.
6 touchdowns and 8 catches. It's insane.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I love about Watson is that he is one of those mobile quarterbacks, but his
not
throws are
run
accurate.
He's not run
Right.
first.
Right, his throws are accurate, which I think has.
Well, we had
a
said
lot
that
of
too.
those-
He's not a run-first quarterback.
Right.
He's definitely looking upfield the entire
But
time.
a lot of those mobile quarterbacks, people got excited about, like RG3. They flame out because they're not accurate.
It was a
with
real
their
fun.
throws.
There was a good play that I think it was Richard Sherman who just got.
Right, even the deep plays.
Watson was
yeah.
running out of the pocket. He had his running back. He directed his running back. Just the running back nails the Seahawk guy. The Texans get a first time. That's, being the traffic controller, still looking down the field, knowing what you're doing, and then having that mobile ability.
Yeah,
it's
he's
been
great.
fun to watch. The Colts are tanking so hard. Pagano's gone at the end of this year.
I don't think they're doing it. They're not, you say tanking, but they're not doing it. I don't think they're doing it on purpose.
So, yeah,
I
I
mean,
think
look. You had Andrew Luck. You're supposed to have Andrew Luck this year. You
Yeah, the
don't
Colts
have
suck.
him.
End
And
of
probably
story.
won't have him the rest of the year.
Colts suck.
That's what I mean. But it's not. Then I mean, if you have your best player, you take Tom Brady out of the mix. The Patriots aren't first
No,
in the East.
if you take Tom Brady out of the mix,
That's what I'm
I
saying,
think the Patriots can
but I'm
still
saying-
make the playoffs.
but, it's the same. No, I don't think so. Right now, no.
So
With Garoppolo, I would have given a little more leeway there.
I don't know. I think they can make the playoffs with Hoyer.
I don't. Here's what I'm going to say, Dustin. I don't want to see us. I don't want to see this have to happen.
No, I don't want to.
I don't want to. I don't want to test that theory.
No, let's not test that theory.
Let's not do that. Bryce, Houston. I'm assuming.
Yeah,
Okay.
Houston.
Cincinnati at Jacksonville.
I'm taking the Jags.
I am as well.
This is one of those games where I finally buy into the Jaguar hype train, and then they just come out and lay an egg against the Bengals because I picked them. But I think they'll win. I think.
Yeah, I mean, Cincinnati's offense isn't good, and the Jaguars' defense is much
Does
better.
Marvin Lewis get fired this year finally?
No, because if he makes the playoffs, no. If he doesn't make the playoffs, still no. They don't know what they're doing there in that front office. Bucks at Saints. It's funny. I look at the beginning. If I looked at the beginning of the year and I looked at all these matchups so far, I would have went, these are going to be some fun matchups. This is going to be some good stuff. Now I'm like, it's almost a little more one-sided than.
Wait, what happened to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
Right, that's
They
what I
are
mean,
just-
I feel like the team every year that everyone expects to finally be good this
The
year.
Buccaneers versus Saints.
Spooky.
I think we would have said at the beginning of the year, like, oh, that's going to be a good matchup.
Yeah.
Now,
Like,
not so
nah,
much
The Saints are going to steamroll on their way to victory.
Is
in New Orleans.
is Jameis Winston
He's overrated.
worthwhile for Tampa Bay?
He's overrated.
Not overrated. He's not healthy.
Even when he is
I
healthy,
have to
don't-
bring health into it. Always have to bring health
I
into it.
don't think Jameis Winston is as good as people think he is, and maybe it's just he just doesn't pass the eye test for me. Like they had the Patriots game a couple weeks ago. Jameis was healthy at that point, and he just was overthrowing balls. He was just not making good throws. Like you watch somebody's tape and you're like, I don't see it. Like he's overthrowing open wide receivers. He's looking sporadic in the pocket. Like it's just like I don't think Jameis Winston's a good quarterback.
I just
That's my
think
take.
a team with Mike Evans and Doug Martin.
Should be
be
better
better.
than
Should be
2-5.
better. Right.
Should be better.
I agree. I wish my fantasy team would start to show that a little more. Rams at Giants.
So are we all taking New Orleans?
We're all taking
New Orleans. Oh, yeah.
Rams at Giants.
Let's go Rams.
Yeah, I did the same thing
Been
as
on
well.
this team.
Rams.
I just.
I'm all in.
there's
I love McVay.
There's no upside in New York.
McVay is like
absolutely,
nothing.
and even
No.
the fact that it's funny because they talk about like, oh, but it's a West Coast team going East Coast. To me, I just don't. I'm not buying into that anymore because I think we've seen teams go West and we've seen teams go that dominate both sides.
Yeah.
So I'm not really buying
Although,
into the
I will
whole
say-
West Coast because these players, unlike their predecessors before them, have the luxury of traveling first class that
Yep.
unlike no other generation. So
Not just first class, just their own private.
I'm just like I'm not buying it. I'm not buying
But
it.
I will say, though, that with all of Eli Manning's offensive weapons pretty much gone, that picking up their tight end Ingram has been a great move for my
I'm sure it
fantasy
has
team.
been. Denver at Philadelphia.
I have
Philly.
decided that as long as Brock Osweiler is the starting quarterback for the Denver Broncos, I will be hate picking against the Broncos for the rest of this season.
Why?
Even if cut.
Did he take some money from you or something?
Oh, he took
steal your lunch
some
money,
money. He
Dustin?
took some of
What?
my soul.
Bill Simmons calls him the heist.
I will be hate picking against the Broncos. Go Eagles! I hope it's a 49-0 game, and I hope half those points are scored on Brock Osweiler pick sixes.
Why don't you hope it's a 56-0 game? It's 49 specifically?
28-3.
28-3?
That's fine with me. Baltimore at Tennessee.
I hate this game. I hate the
Me too.
Ravens. I hate the Ravens.
So Tennessee at 4-3. The Ravens showed some life.
I'm
At
just
4-4,
gonna go-
and also Flacco's back this week as well.
I'm just going with the home team pick.
Yeah,
to say
I
Tennessee.
kind of have to do
I
the
hate
same
that
thing
team.
as well.
Or I hate this game.
This game is
Matchup.
awful because the Ravens are. Don't get me started.
They have Danny Woodhead back. They have Joe Flacco back.
Oh yeah, elite. Joe Flacco sucks.
I've been running with Baltimore's defense on my fantasy team. And there are games that they give me 2 points, and then games they like last week they give me
24
29, and
something
like lead
that.
the league
Right.
in interceptions.
Arizona at San Francisco.
Arizona.
Cardinals. Boy, the Cardinals might be the worst team that is not going to be looked at as a worst team because they have a cupcake schedule, kind of, and they're going to be able to go back to 500 this week. But nobody's going to talk about how much they suck because the 4 wins they have are not quality wins. But whatever. When you play the 49ers twice, I guess that's 2 free wins you get gifted.
They don't play the 49ers twice.
They're in the same division.
They are in the same division.
Yeah.
No, that's right.
But anyway, no, I hate the Cardinals because the Cardinals are bad.
Redskins at Seattle.
Seattle.
Seattle just keeps rolling. They picked up offensive tackle
Seattle
from
is
Houston
back.
as well.
That was a very nice trade for both
That was a very
teams, by the way.
quiet trade from both teams.
It was a very quiet trade, but a very nice trade. The Texans got a 2nd-round pick and a 3rd-round pick out of that deal because the cornerback failed the physical. So, hey, I'll take it. 2 picks. I'll take it.
Yeah, I think it's funny that the tackle they sent over to Seattle, he's only played 1 game this year, and because he held out, he played 1 game this year against Seattle, then a few days later he gets traded to him.
But he's also 32 years old, so I don't know how much more you're really going to get out of this guy. Like,
hey, but that's an area that Seattle needs help in.
it is.
So
and Seattle's
both
in win
teams-
now mode, so Houston just took the picks, and I like it.
Yeah. Kansas City at the Dallas Cowboys -1. Ezekiel Elliott.
Are we sure he's not going to be back in time to play this week?
I
because
think it already. I think it.
the Zeke suspension coaster. Anyway, I'm picking
No,
up
but
Chiefs.
I think
Chiefs.
I think it already like passed its moment. Like it's supposed to be. It was supposed to be like Tuesday. If they had reversed it by
Would it
Tuesday.
have been better for the Cowboys just to have him serve the first 6 games?
Absolutely, it would have.
I
I think we all kind of said that because right now
Yeah,
you
he's
have
out for the home stretch.
Philadelphia's rolling right now.
Yeah.
Absolutely rolling. There's going to be no catching up to them. So you're looking at a wild card spot.
It's clear the Cowboys
And
didn't expect Philly to
You
be
have
as good as
Seattle
they
and the
are.
Rams that are still, they're
Yeah.
playing very well right now. So I would have taken them first. And that's what I said about Brady, where when he first fought it, I was like, I'd rather you do it at the beginning of the season than all of a sudden you're out for the Super Bowl or
Yep.
something like, God
Yep.
forbid. So, and then sure enough, the following week, yes, okay, it had, or the following year rather, he took
But
the first
luckily,
4
this could
games,
cause
and that's what you
Goodell to lose
wanted.
his job.
It could, because the NFL owners are both saying basically that, like, we're going to halt this, the whole agreement thing. So,
You got 2 minutes.
yep, so we have Kansas City. We're all picking Kansas City. Mm-hmm. And then we have Oakland at Miami.
Dolphins.
Oh, stop it.
Dolphins.
Okay. I'm going with Oakland.
I'm gonna go with Oakland.
Clearly with Oakland. I
Yeah.
know that they're 3-5, but they're way better than Miami is.
Are they, though?
Yes.
Are they?
Oh, yes.
Are they?
Yes.
Are they?
Yes.
Are they?
Yes. Detroit at Green Bay.
Detroit.
Yeah, Detroit. I had to remember for a second Aaron Rodgers isn't there.
Yes,
Rodgers
and
is
Stafford
back.
is still
Obviously.
throwing his arm
Detroit.
off. So, I'm going with Detroit as well. I don't know about your fantasy teams. Mine is like an NSYNC song right now. It's bye.
I have deleted
and it's
the-
terrible right now.
I have deleted the fantasy football app because my team started at 0-8. I'm just not doing it anymore.
Congratulations,
I'm done.
Dustin. Well, we have less than 2 minutes. Go to the 2-minute drill, our bowl predictions for the week. I will say that last week we had a couple that came to end. Dustin said Dodgers would lose in 6. I said MVU would beat Mill River, and John said the Pats would lose by 14. All knows. So, bowl predictions
Mine
for the
is
week
yet to be
ahead.
determined. I say Giannis would win MVP. That didn't happen this
Yeah,
last
I'll
week,
get to be
but-
determined. I know. So we have about a minute left.
Bold prediction. I don't really have anything bold this week.
I think here's my. It's not a real bold prediction, but you say the Miami Dolphins are going to win. I think Marshawn's going to have 2 touchdowns this week. It's not a huge bold prediction, but I think coming off of a suspension, he's going to be well into that offense. I think he scores a couple touchdowns.
Jay Cutler
this
goes off. 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, no wins. That's my prediction.
week. Jay Cutler goes
Jay
up.
Cutler. Jay Cutler's back, baby.
300 yards. What?
300 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks.
Okay. And Bryce,
This isn't this week specific
it never is with you.
because I'm terrible at bold predictions.
Go ahead. Come on.
Jimmy Garoppolo is going to win his first game with San Francisco.
Really bold. Shocker.
So that one won't count. You're going to take a loss for this week. That's going to do
Yep.
it for us on Huddle Up. He's Bryce. He's Dustin. JT. He's at work. He'll be back next week with another edition of Huddle Up on Northwest Access TV.